From the great state of Michigan, off-road racer and professional riding coach Corey Parlin is next.
What's up, guys? This is Jeremy McGrath, the King of Supercross, and you are listening to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is Season 3, Episode 3. As a reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and comment below. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know how you like our intro. I think you'll like the guy that's doing it. If you download this podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, give us a 5-star if you can. Regardless, Marty and I always thank you so much for the support. Today's guest is from the great state of Michigan, an accomplished off-road racer, former Honda tuner, and the founder and operator of Great Lakes Motorcycle Coach, Mr. Corey Parlin. Welcome, Corey, to the podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. What's the weather like up there? What part of Michigan are you from?
So I'm from Sherwood, Michigan, or Athens area, which is like south of Battle Creek, but I live in just south of Kalamazoo in Schoolcraft now.
Okay.
And it's probably like, I don't know, mid-30s. It's not too cold. It's been pretty mild winter so far.
It has.
Marty and I were talking earlier about winter riding. This would be a great winter to be riding for sure because there's not a lot of snow on the ground.
Why do you do a lot of that up there in Michigan, winter riding?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I haven't, I've been injured the last 2.5 years, so I haven't, the last 2.5 years. But normally I ride all winter long, and I got a little track at my house, little trail. It's like 3 minutes, and so in past winters I do a ton of riding, and really enjoy it. It's super super fun, and I think anybody that hasn't tried it before should, just because I feel like it's a really good way to not lose your edge. Everybody has that feeling when you come out in the spring and you haven't ridden since maybe November or something, and you're kind of rusty. But if you ride all winter, you don't really lose that as much.
Do you find that, most of your clients, we'll get to why you started the coaching school and all that kind of stuff, but do you kind of push that with your customers, your clients?
Not too much. I think that's a personal thing, and I think it depends on the person. I mean, I think some guys need the winter off to get back into it, and other guys need to keep riding. And it seems like the younger and more driven riders are more into that. So I wouldn't say I push it real hard. If someone were to ask me, I would say I think it's a great idea. You should either ride on the ice or ride off road all winter if that's what makes you happy. And I kind of just tailor it around what that rider. What their goals are and what they feel like. And that was something I had to realize early on, or I fortunately was able to realize early on, that everyone. And this guy, he may just want to get better at trail riding. This other guy, he wants to win everything he can possibly win. And he's absolutely obsessed. And, that was more me. I wasn't super talented. And so I had to work incredibly hard to do the little bit that I did. And, just because I wasn't talented, and I knew I wasn't, which was really an asset, that I knew I know who I am, and I know what I'm good at and what I need at. And so for me, it was, and just, we were talking earlier before we started, growing up around Stantons and just growing up in a farm community, I guess I saw it as the only way was to be a hard worker. But then again, there's other riders that I work with that they just want to get better at trail riding and become better riders. And I'm totally on board with that too.
Well, generally in these podcasts, I have this thing in my brain where I have to kind of go in order of like the start of your birth and work till current. But actually, I think we should jump right into the coaching thing.
Because I'm the
shake it up a little bit here.
I'm the same. I like go from the start. Yeah, but you guys tell me how you want to roll through it.
Well, I think we start into that. We'll kind of work backwards a little bit. So what is Great Lakes Motorcycle Coach? Mr. Corey Parlin, and what do you do? When did you start it? Let's dive into that because I think that's
sure.
a really cool thing you're doing.
Thank you.
I would love to do something like that, although I don't have your talent. But I love coaching the kids, soccer, whatever, my kids. But I know it takes an extreme amount of patience and really knowledge to. I mean, we all know how to ride,
Well,
right?
some of us do.
Some.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure. I don't.
But how do you translate that to people, right? Like I'm trying to teach my kids.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, Max, my oldest, just pull in the clutch.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. He doesn't know how to do that. Now,
Sure.
how do I teach him? So anyway, I won't steal your thunder, but start with that.
No. Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, but I think, I guess I'll start with how I got it started. I was coached by a lot of really great racers. So I would tell you up front, and I do this at the beginning of schools. I rip off a lot of people that taught me how to do it. I'll be honest, right? And my one of my mentors used to say, if you use it 3 times, then it's yours. Well, I've used it way more than 3 times. So I grew up around Jeff, and he really helped me when he could. I mean, he was racing full time then, but at least I saw what the right things were to do. And then when I worked for Scott Summers as his mechanic for a while, so I learned a lot about racecraft and running the race team and how to set up bikes and all that kind of stuff. So that helped me a ton. I got to work with, in my mind, some of the very best suspension tuners in the nation, with Ziggy and Eric Crippa and all these guys, Ron Monk, and all these really high guys, high level guys, I should say. So I got to learn a lot. And I think I've always been a student because I always saw myself as not super talented. And so it was always just a sponge. What can I learn? What can I pick up? What can I improve upon? And then Shane Watts lived with us for about a year. And this was before Shane Watts did his schools. And we were friends pretty close friends at that time. And he taught me a lot as well. It taught me a ton about European lines. And ever since then, I've been on board and been a real advocate of European lines and things like that. And and then when
not to interrupt you.
Yeah, I was going to say, whoa, stop. What is this?
Let's unpack that a little bit because I kind of know what you're talking about. But let's talk about European lines for the layman.
Right. So the typical American thing to do, which I don't want to sound like I'm bagging on Americans because I'm definitely not. I'm very patriotic, but the typical thing you see is, let's say it's a 90-degree turn and a guy will come in really tight. And that's the line, right? Come in a bit tight and then he'll drift wide. And just to not get into great detail, but that same turn that's a 90, the European would enter wide or open up his turn, as Ricky Carmichael would say. He would apex tight on that 90, and then he might even let it drift a little wide so that he can carry a lot more speed and a lot more momentum. And the other thing, too, I feel like European riders, especially in the past, I feel like America's catching up a bit. They were better at mid-corner roll. So what you see sometimes is a guy will come into a turn, and this is getting beyond lines, but they come in and he'll get on the brakes so hard, it'll slow down too much. And then he's got to get on the throttle way harder to make up for slowing down too much. So a lot of Euro guys and fast professionals in the United States, they brake a lot less. They have a lot better mid-corner roll. And then everybody gets on the gas. Like Brian always say, there's 3 steps to a turn. It's braking, mid-corner roll, and acceleration. Everybody loves the acceleration part. That's the fun part, right? But the mid-corner roll, in my mind, that's where the money's at. That's where the speed's at. And if you watch this weekend, you'll see it a lot, especially in both turns, like a Cooper Webb or guys that really know how to roll through turns well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that's like the main thing with Euro lines is maybe I give up a half a second on the entry, but I gain a second on the mid and the exit, right? And things are a trade-off. And I say, don't race to the apex, right? We're trying to put this turn together with that turn to this obstacle and not just think about the thing that you're looking at right in that moment, I guess. And that's what Shane taught me. So again, I don't try and pretend like I came up with all this stuff. A lot of people way smarter and better and more talented came up with it. I just learned and held on to it.
So it's almost like automotive racing.
I agree.
You see the cars on the right-hand side coming into the corner, hitting the apex to roll back out.
Racing. Yeah.
Well, your
right, Marty.
description, Corey, of slamming on the brakes and then exploding the turn, that was basically me for forever racing enduros.
Yeah.
I had, and the first word that I thought of when he's describing that is energy, right? I mean, how much energy you waste doing that I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of, I don't have a lot of regret in racing because, you know, it's in the past, but I wish I would have learned to just be smoother. But when you're an 18, 19, 20-year-old, you know, 17-year-old young buck, I mean, you think, you know, I got to explode and put the hammer down, and that's the best way around the turn.
It feels fast.
It sounds really cool.
It sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And it feels fast. You know, you're standing and nosy going into the corner and like, oh, that's so fast.
Right.
And then you're starting from ground zero speed back to as you come out of the corner. And you know, being that we, you know, with MX Express, you know, you're watching people that, and you see some of the really fast guys, they go through these corners, it's just like nothing. And you'll see somebody come down there, man, they've got a pin come down that straightaway, get right to the corner, and you're like, oh man, did they stop, get off, or what did they do there? You know, because it was like fast, go almost to a complete stop, and then try to get all that forward momentum back again within seconds, so it doesn't happen.
Yeah, you can't do it that way.
Like you say,
looks good though.
Fast, and it even looks fast.
Yeah,
but it's not so fast. So yeah, I guess that's how I got into it. I learned so much over the years about how to tune and how to ride and even how to train. I had 3 different good trainers and because I just took it really seriously. And so I've tried to help all my guys with that. And then once I got injured, I was already thinking about this, and I had done a couple of schools with other people. And I think within a couple of schools, I realized that it felt like this was my purpose, and that with racing at the level I was racing at, I wasn't going to be able to do it for a lot longer. You know, being in my 40s and racing regionally, pretty much racing guys half my age, which I was super stoked to do. But it could also go like, man, at 50, am I still going to be able to race for overalls and things like that? And then I had a really bad injury. Not really bad, but I had a tough injury, I guess, which left my left foot's kind of paralyzed and my legs kind of janky. So then I started going like, go ahead, man.
Was that in 2019? I do remember, you know, the Facebook posts and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I did a race with Martin, my buddy Martin Ryerson, down together, and we did Louisiana. And at that time, because if you ride 30A and you're in the top however many overall, I think if you finish in the top 15 overall, then you got to ride AA, which I was fine with riding AA before that. But then Honda had this thing where for a minute you could get $1,000 on a Visa card if you won the A class. So I was like, I'm buying a Honda, and then I'll make a little bit of money going racing. So Martin and I went and did that race together. We had a great time. Rode in the same minute, rode the same class. We were first and second, and came home. And I was training on that bike, and it was just an accident, just a weird, a jump got changed that I thought was the same, and it was different. And the way I train is I train just like we race, right? So if I'm getting ready for a sprint enduro, I'm doing 8-10 minute motos, and every lap's time and every moto's time. And my expectation would be to have a time in the first moto that's not more than 5% off from my best moto all day, to make sure I'm coming out the gates, you know, swinging. Regular enduro is 6 30-minute motos. Hare Scramble, I practiced a 2.5-hour moto. So I just started that moto with no sight lap, because that's how it was just an accident, you know, just a misunderstanding. And I was at my best friend's track, and I originally am the one who built the track, and it was no one's fault. It was just a weird deal. So, yeah.
Well, accidents happen, and it's, you know, you're going to crash. Everybody crashes, unless you're not doing it. Yeah. But some crashes are just worse than others. So what was the exact injury to yourself, Corey?
So I got out of the bike right away, and I landed on my feet, but I sort of took the lower half of my leg and flipped it on the upper half of my leg. Ooh. And so I broke, you know, femur, tibial plateau, tore my IT band and my hamstring, my lateral hamstring off the bone. Of course, tore ACL, MCL, PCL, LCL in half. And then the nerves were damaged, you know, so my lower leg doesn't really work right. But I didn't rip my medial hamstring off the bone. So I had that going for me. I had one thing I kept, so that was pretty awesome. But yeah, I was in the hospital for about 10 days, and then it's been about 6 surgeries. I had a knee replacement about a month ago, and I mean, it's been tough, but without getting too philosophical or too spiritual, I feel like it's one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I found my purpose with this coaching, and I've made really great relationships, and I've grown a lot as a person through this adversity. And I just kind of always look at it as it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with it. And I've tried to do my best with it, so. Well,
that is fantastic advice, and something to really the audience, I mean, including myself, should look at, especially in the world we're living in now. It's just it's so difficult with the, COVID and everything else. And so if one book or one door closes, another one opens, and that's kind of the attitude you've taken. And where do you, I'm assuming your parents, but where do you kind of get that drive and that outlook on things?
Definitely, I would say comes from just the people I got to be around when I was a kid. My mom was really tough. My older sister raised me a lot too, because both my parents own businesses, just like you do, Matt, and you do, Marty. So they were busy sometimes. And my older sister is a very tough person too. And I think from that, and we worked from a really young age. We worked from about 8 years old. My dad's a builder, and so I was building houses with him. And then, like I said, family friends with the Stantons, they're just no nonsense people, and they don't make excuses, and they're tough, and they always find a way to make it happen. So in the town I kind of am from, there's a lot of Parlins, there's a lot of Stantons, and honestly, they're all just tough. They're just tough people, I guess. So that would be the main thing, really. And then I just realized that when something bad happens and I complain, it makes it worse. So I never want to give those things power with my words. I only want to give power to the positivity and what good could come out of it, even a bad thing. And I just noticed the results. When I did it this way, I didn't feel as good. And when I did it the other way, I felt way better about it. So,
and it's tough because, we can complain, and then it's not a second or two more we hear something else that's even worse, and then you feel really bad about complaining. You're like, wow, I thought this was bad, and right. A whole lot more going on out there. It's like I was just thinking about crashes, and you were talking about your crash. I just see now Ryan Sipes. I saw him a little bit. He's using, I didn't see him. I guess he did have the walker. I saw a little bit of clip today where he's rehabbing out and trying to get, so you look at it thinking, man, I guess that sprained ankle or whatever, or get off wasn't as bad, when you see somebody else doing that stuff. So, I wanted to just, if you don't mind me jumping back, because I know you were talking about, you've done so much suspension work and stuff. And we were talking about the rider that likes to get into the corner hot, just almost come to a stop and go. The setup, the suspension setup between that style rider and the rider that can get through the corners, very fluid, has got to be a total different setup, I got to believe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Because you need a lot more hold up, especially on the shock for a guy that drives it in too deep consistently. And that is a factor. And I use a lot of video with the schools, so I can tell pretty instantly if a guy's overriding the track or overriding a corner. And I try and coach those guys and reel them back in. And usually it's the faster guys that tend to do too much. And you just have to show them the video and go, man, less is more. If you don't bottom out your suspension in this corner, you're going to be faster. So just give up a little bit so you can have better mid-corner, and then you'll be quicker coming out. And then you can have a better setup, too. You don't have to have so much hold up on that shock. And so you're right, it's totally a different setup for a different guy. And to give you an idea, I don't know this firsthand, but I heard, like, if you go to Carmichael's, which I guess is owned by Star now, and you blow out berms consistently, I heard this rumor he'll kick you out. And I kind of like that, because I'm like, quit blowing the berms out, man. You don't have to blow out the berms to get fast. And when I would ride with Shane Watts, he never blew out berms. He never kicked up a ton of roost. He was so smooth and he was so fast. So it's just a mental thing, I think. You got to kind of think.
And I got to believe that if you're trying to set up a suspension for that kind of rider, you got to be giving away something on the other end, I would think. So yeah, you can set it up for how hard they ride in the corners, but when it comes down somewhere else, you got to be giving it away a little bit there, I would think. And so you're really defeating the purpose,
right?
Because you watch these riders come down through and they're so smooth, and you look at that, and the bike's not bucking them, it's not it's not throwing them all over the place, and they just go through it so smoothly. And then you, like you said, I watch different riders and where they do that, and then they come down the straightaway, and then the bike is just all over, where they've tried to compensate, trying to get in the corner without the thing, hoofing them off. But that's cool. I say, I never really have done a lot of suspension. My suspension days was back when the old WR 250 Huskies. We'd cut a piece of PVC, and we'd make it springs a little stiffer by putting some different size PVC in it and using a little different oil, But
that's an old trick.
Not to interrupt, but we're at 17 minutes
sure.
before you mentioned Husqvarna, Marty.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You're a big Husky guy, huh?
I started Husqvarna. I want to say my real bike. I mean, I had, some Suzuki stuff and some, Benelli and, a lot of the old solid frame
Benelli,
stuff.
isn't that a gun?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. And
you're aging yourself now, Marty.
I know. That was our first real bike. Everything up until that was a little Trail 70 stuff and some hard frame stuff with the Briggs and Stratton. And my dad came home with this little Benelli, and that was like, oh my God,
I've never heard of a Benelli.
You never heard of a Benelli?
No.
Benelli 50. No. I wish I had it now.
Oh yeah, probably worth a lot.
I see
of money.
They're still making them, but they're making them in China now.
Oh, of course.
Because I always thought I'd love to find another one to put in the shop, just to say, but. No, we had that, so we rode just some odds and stuff that we came. But when I finally was able to buy a real bike, I bought a Husqvarna, and
is that right?
And I'm upstate Pennsylvania, so we're in the mountains and that kind of stuff. And that was, that was a great woods bike. It was
the premier bike.
Yeah, Huskies were
off road.
Great off road. So I'm a Husky guy. I'm back to riding some KTM right now. I'm waiting for Jim to get some more inventory in. The inventory is a little tight right now for the Huskies.
I always give them a hard time and tell them they're basically just white KTM. So we rib each other a little bit, but I got a KTM myself, so I just say ride whatever you like and go for it. But
here in about 6 weeks, I'll be picking up a red KTM from Mr. Duravage. So.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Going the gasser, huh?
Yeah, I had one last year. I didn't ride it a ton, but yeah, I'll get another one. So same bike you're getting, Jim, just the gas version. So I guess I'll get linkage, as opposed to what you'll have. But I had one last year. I really liked it.
What do you ride? So you ride a gas what?
I had a EC300 last year, and I got that one from JT just because they had one and they're out now. So, but Jim had one, and I really liked it. I thought. I rode it for less than an hour the first time and thought this is way too lean. So I pretty much bought one of those Athena CDI tuners right away. And then I could get it to run right. And for me, I just didn't I kind of wanted it to burn more fuel and just run a little bit harder. But no, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Can you jump back to that? Because you just sparked my interest a little bit. So that's my only complaint with my 300 KTM, because I've got I've got a 21 Erzberg. 300, and my only complaint is just it just doesn't run as crisp as like a perfectly carbureted like my Beta I had. I had a JD jet kit, and that ran really nice. But what do you have a suggestion for that? You said a CDI kit or whatever. What was it? What was you mentioning?
So Athena makes a CDI that's Wi-Fi tunable, and you can buy it with replacement injectors or without. And I bought it with the injectors, where they move the injectors off the cylinder into the intake manifold.
Okay.
And in the old days, obviously, I would have done that separately to know exactly what gave me what. But now I'm kind of not a racer and I'm not a test rider, so I just threw them both on. And then it ran more like a carb once I got a good map. And the way they do the maps is, I want to say there's 10 cells each way, RPM and fuel. Excuse me. And I just I just go until I feel like it's a little too rich, and then I come back a little. Is sort of how I would tune with my phone. And it's nice too, because like Martin and I went on a trail ride, and I could tune on the trail ride from my phone. I'd take
That's sweet.
That's wild.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
No more getting your screwdriver out.
Yeah. You're going to burn a lot more fuel is the only thing. But yeah, no more screwdrivers, no more taking the subframe halfway off and all that stuff. And it's awesome. But yeah, I agree. The bike comes way too lean for me.
Yeah.
It's the CDI. I'll do the CDI this time. I don't think I'll do the injectors just to see how much difference it is. And then I kind of feel like that ovaled out pipe doesn't run as good as a regular pipe. And then I cut down the silencer. I usually cut 60 millimeters off the silencer and put an Enduro engineering cap on it. So
yeah, I was gonna try a pipe, like I do a FMF gnarly and a Power Core 2 silencer. I've got the stock one on there now, and I'm not racing. I'm just fiddling around trail riding once in a while. But
yeah, me too.
But I miss that. I mean, I love the bike. I mean, it handles great. The suspension is just, I mean, I call it the glider. It feels like you just glide over stuff. It's like, chop and tree roots. It just glides right over top of it, or logs.
I agree.
That part's great. It's just, I miss that, I hate to say that explosion part. I just miss that, when it just gets on and it's just, you could just tell it's just running perfect. I miss that a little bit. So.
See now.
That CDI is for you then. That's the deal.
See, now you're different. See, you're different than me. I like it smooth. I don't want to feel any explosion. No. I want it to be smooth. And that's what got me. I had bought my son a 17 300 Husky.
The TX, wasn't it?
The TX, yes.
Yeah.
And, I bought that for his graduation, and he, graduated college. And so I got for that. And so he had it, and we did a lot of riding out in Arizona. And so I've been a 350 guy, and so I thought, the 350 is such a great bike. It's a great bike for just about everything. It's probably a little bit more bike for dual sporting, probably a little bit than the single track that I've been riding in. And I had a hard time. I'm a recluse guy, so I always run the gear high, and you come to something and you want to give it a little bit of, a little handful just to get the front to loft a little. And it was really tough with that 350, but everywhere else, it was just great. It's a tractor. It does whatever. And so I told my son, I said, hey, I called him, he was back here working and I was out playing, and I said, hey, can I ride your bike? He goes, yeah, sure. And I got on that 300, and we're doing some single track stuff. Then we got out into some, more, I say Jeep trail, I guess. And there gets to be some really good rollers, or good size rollers. I don't say good as for what I like, but there's some really rollers and some deep stuff. And we're out where there's four wheelers and stuff get on. And I scooted back a little bit and just rolled the power on, and the front came up, and I went through that stuff, and I got to the other end. I almost stopped. I was like, wow, this is really nice, And the same thing when I got on the single track. I got the single track stuff, and there's a lot of G outs. There's a lot of little ravines, little water washouts and stuff. And the 350, you grab some handful of throttle and you tug on her to get her to, to go through. And I just sort of rolled the throttle on, and the front come up, and I went through it. And I'm like, hey, no, this is not, because everybody, I had a friend of mine ride with me and go, man, he goes, this two strokes make you work. And I'm on this thing, on the two stroke thinking, man, I'm not working that hard, compared to the 350, And I bought, then I have a friend of mine in Arizona. He's, he rides with all the boys in Arizona. So they all use Stillwell to,
suspension
wise. Yeah. And so they're always playing with the suspension. So they got the top of the top. Well, then my buddy buys it after they've had it for a year and done everything they could do to it. And they buy a new bike. Well, he buys theirs. And then a lot of times when he's done with it, I'll take it, because it's already been, gone through every little thing it could you think of, to be done. It's been done, and I get it. So I went and bought another 17 from him that was like a brand new bike. And I said, nah, I'd like that 17. And
they're nice.
And then I got rid of them, and I thought, well, I'm going to, buy all the brand new ones. And I got rid of them and then couldn't get any more.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened? So they're still in the containers on the ships out on the West Coast, I think.
They're on arrival, I think.
So you, So for your coaching, are you coaching a little bit of everything? Are you coaching off-road
Yeah,
and motocross?
a little bit of everything, but my background is more off-road. I did race a decent amount of motocross when I was a teenager in early 20s, doing money motos up where I'm at and stuff like that. But I had more success off-road, and I'm probably known a little bit off-road. So I coach more off-road than moto, but I do both. And I enjoy it. And I coach 5-year-old kids all the way up to 70-year-old men, and coach a lot of ladies. And
so he can coach me.
Yeah,
he coaches those older guys.
He could teach you new tricks.
Well, that might be tough. We do need to get him down. I think with your two boys, my grandson's in Florida, and he's I bought him a husky, of course, and so he's run the track, and he likes the track. But this year we're gonna work on the state forest over here. He's wanting to ride woods, and I like that because I'm an off-road guy. So I'm really excited. So we need to get Corey to come down.
A remote coaching.
He needs to come on down. We cook him some hot dogs or some steaks or whatever, and get the little boys, the boys and the girls. And I've got a couple of granddaughters that's enjoying the riding too. But you've raced, and I talk to a lot of racers. Can you go out and just ride off-road and enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't to get to a point where you get out there, if you're not fifth gear tapped, you're not having fun?
No, not for me personally, no. And it's funny for me because I was not a good mini racer. I'll give you a really fast like when I was a little kid, I was probably last place. A kid named Ahmad Owens used to just hand it to me. And my older brother was the fast one, And so, long story short, my older brother, he got to where he didn't want to race anymore because it was on Sunday. He wanted to be able to go to church. And so then more energy was put into me. I got better. And I raced until I went to work for Scott Summers. And then I raced a little on the side, but then I came back to it and I tried to make it one more time. I'm like it's been thousands of guys like me that were, whatever, 10th to 20th overall. But in off-road, that doesn't get you anything,
Doesn't pay well, does it?
It does not pay well. Mm-mm. And so, I met my wife in 2002. And from like 2003 to 2014, I had little kids and a new wife. And I didn't race, but maybe once a year. Sometimes I didn't race at all. So we used to have a cabin in Baldwin. And every Saturday and Sunday morning, I'd be out on the trail at 6 a.m. or 6:30 or whenever it was light, and I'd go do Little Man of Steer. I'd do Tin Cup a couple times by myself, which I know people would say isn't smart, but man, I had like a decade of just trail riding all by myself, and it was like spiritual. It was so good, I just always look back at those times I had with so many fond memories, and I think everybody can have fun trail riding after. I mean, look at Jeff Stanton. He was the best in the world, not arguably, he was the best in the world. He went to Motocross of Nations and came from dead last. And that guy goes and trail rides and has fun. He goes to his local track once in a while and has fun. And when some local A guy decides he thinks he knows Jeff Stanton, which is ridiculous, doesn't let it bother him. And it's Jeff Stanton. So if he can do it, I can do it, And I have a really good time just trail riding and cruising.
Well, there's a lot of guys, I think probably to piggyback on Marty's question, is there's a lot of guys and girls probably that can't do that. They once they're done racing, they're done. I mean, and they're not.
Really?
Yeah, and I think,
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Greg Dervage. I keep picking on him. I said, hey, we went out we took him out to Arizona and did a little bit of riding out there, which he really enjoyed. But still, it's still that energy of racing is there. You can tell, that it's there. I think Brock, the same thing, has mentioned the same thing. It's hard for him to not go fast.
Right.
And for me, off-roading is the best thing in the world.
Well, I think I think once you understand that it's okay if you don't go racing, I think that's the hurdle. Once guys stop, they stop, and then they sell the bike, and then they're done. I mean, then they're done. And I had a friend of mine, just say, never sell your bike. And I always tell that to people, not that I'm offer some kind of great advice, but don't ever sell your bike, because you never know when you get a Corey Parlin that calls you and says, let's go up to the let's go up to the UP and go ride. So
if Corey calls me, he's looking for a ride, because he's not calling me to go riding with, because he's like, where did that guy go? He had to send a helicopter back for me.
What's your my dad all the time.
You ride with your dad?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No.
How old's your dad?
I think he was born in 49, so be 51, 72.
72.
Okay. Well, he's got a little age on me then.
Yeah. And for me, what you're talking about, I can't speak to Brock or Greg, and I don't know those guys. Of course, I know who they are. I know they're fantastic riders. I guess for me, I can't speak to why they can't. And I do tend to go a little fast sometimes, but not like before. I felt like when I was trying to be as good as I could be, I worked so hard and I did so much for the talent I had, and I definitely don't see myself as talented as those guys, I was just a worker. So I feel like, man, I did everything I could and I got the best results I could possibly get. And so honestly, I don't want to sound weird, but I don't have anything to prove, and
right.
I didn't do anything special, but I did everything I could do. And so that's what I was given. And I did the best with what I was given. So.
Well, I remember when I was, and how old are you, Corey?
43.
43.
He's
okay.
a young boy.
So you're just a few years older than me, but I remember I was like, kind of getting into the A class. I was kind of a late bloomer myself. I really didn't, I don't know. It took me a long time to figure out the enduro thing, and trying to get that speed by myself, on a trail, as opposed to a hare scramble where you could kind of latch on and figure things out. But I remember you were always top 3 at least at a local enduro, and you've overhauled some enduros back in the day, right? I mean, you've overhauled.
Yeah, I was always more of a GNCC guy. So the hunts got me into doing enduros, and I did them for a year or two, but I just wasn't experienced. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know how to do timekeeping. I was, of course, like everybody, I love the trail. The trail's better, but I was so focused on motocross and GNCC because I was trying to get a ride. I was trying to make it like everybody else that's a regional guy. And I was kind of more focused on the fast stuff. But then when I came back to racing in 15, I was like, I'm going to enduros, man. I'm going where the good trail is. So, yeah.
How did you go ahead? No, go ahead.
I just think enduros are the best trail because you're not riding something beat up and you're riding something new and fresh and you haven't seen it before, and it's just fun.
Yes. So. Once we started, like, we kind of transitioned from GNCCs to enduros, and it was like we never even went back. I mean, specifically talking about my dad and I, but and Cody Maston too. But yeah, it's there's nothing better, especially up in Michigan, all them great enduros, Jack Pine, and I love Mud Daubers, and that's always a good one. Roselon, I always love that one. Really, all of them. I've never done a District 14 enduro where I'm like, boy, that was terrible. I mean, they've all been pretty good.
They're awesome.
They are awesome.
Yeah. When I was young, I wasn't real focused on Jack Pine because it was just always GNCC. I just had this tunnel vision of, if I want to do this, I have to be at GNCCs, and it's still that way, right? Like, you kind of have to go there, and that's the best racing, and the crews do a fantastic job at racing 2,500 racers. Can you imagine having 2,500 racers at Toledo? Like,
no,
it's insane. So of course the trail's going to be really fast.
We'd be burying.
Well, I would probably lose all my hair.
Well, I guess we'd be burying you somewhere along the trail somewhere. That's where that would be. The hair would be the least of your issues.
We had 400 at the race, for the weekend last year, and it was like, oh dear God. I mean, I would love to have more. Just as an ego thing, to be honest. I mean, to say, oh, we had this many, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know if we really want that many. You know, like there's a trade off there, but 2,500. Well, you see, if anybody has any free time, just YouTube what that trail looks like, after 2,500, quads and dirt bikes ride through it for a couple hours. Holy smokes. It is gnarly, gnarly
There's
stuff.
Probably like a dozen people that'll do that race and say it was fun, and they're all probably professionals that are trained by Alden Baker or something,
Yeah,
everybody else is like, no, that's miserable.
Whoever says that was fun. I mean, I've never heard anybody say that. It's the mystique and the competitiveness and the prestige, right, of GNCCs.
Yeah. And if you want to get a ride, you want to be the best, then you have to go race the best, and that's where all the best are. So
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your best ever overall finish at a GNCC by chance?
15th.
15th.
Yeah, 15th.
That's impressive.
My last GNCC, I was 18th, and that was 2002. I went down the week before, or 2 weeks before, and I stayed at Mike Lafferty's house, and we trained and rode together every day. And so, like I said, I have no excuses for why I didn't become somebody. I had all the right people, I had all the right stuff, knew how to train, knew how to ride, knew how to tune bikes. And so I love that. For me, I love that I'm not one of those guys that was like, if I would have done this or that, or, I worked with Aaron Wagner. I don't know I'm sure you know who Aaron Wagner is.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So I coached Aaron, and Aaron and I raced each other in 01 and 02. And he's younger than me, but we had good battles, and he won in 01. I broke my arm with 4 races to go, and then I won in 02. And I just never realized what he was working with compared to what I was working with. And it's not because I'm special or smart or anything. I just had exposure to the right people.
Right.
And so when I worked with Aaron, it was so fun and so awesome because, and for one thing, Aaron comes across as a bit of an introvert, but once he gets talking, it's great. And he's so cool and so laid back. And I just realized how many advantages I'd been given from the people who had taught me. In hindsight, I guess I didn't know. Right.
He's a fast dude. I mean, I don't know if
talented.
I don't know if I ever beat him at an enduro, to be honest with you. If I did, I might have got lucky,
I spent a ton of time riding with Aaron, when we raced each other, because sometimes we would race together all day, and I will say he's one of the most talented racers we've ever had. Right up there with the Keens, super talented and just natural, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dream is that someday we have, not take anything away from all the other guys, but someday we have a top GNCC guy, a GNCC champion, or my real dream is that he would come through my program and I would help him get there. But either way, I would love for a Michigan guy to be a top off-road racer in the world. That would be, I guess you could count DB, but DB didn't he didn't move back to Michigan until I think he was 2. So I guess you could count the King, but beyond that, we've never had a Scott Summers or Plessinger or a Dwayne Connors or whoever. We just haven't had that top guy.
Well, Michigan is just both motocross and off-road, just has a huge number of just all around great racers. I mean, there's just, and really and truly, Ohio does too, but traditionally they're more Southern Ohio guys. Those guys down there, I tell you, if you want to develop a callus on your hands and your rear end, go ride, Southern Ohio Aces Enduros. They're beautiful, absolute beautiful races. But I always loved when it's about 1 or 2 in the morning, the night before a race down there, and you just start to hear it rain on the box fan, and what's coming. I mean, the next day is going to be.
You're going to be on the ground.
It's going to be torture. I mean, it's going to be absolute torture. But
it's tough. But look at how many top GNCC guys Southern Ohio has produced.
Oh yeah,
some
tons.
Insanely great off-road racers that come out of Ohio, and that's the thing I am a little envious of, is that you guys have had some very high-level top 5 guys. I can't name them all. You got Plessinger, you got Plessinger. I guess we're saying Plessinger now when I watch Supercross.
Yeah, I know.
Dwayne Connors was Ohio, right? Or was he PA? Southwest PA.
He was Pennsylvania. He was
Chucky
Pennsylvania.
Woodford. I guess McLevy was Pennsylvania.
Was it Mullins?
Had,
Mullins was an Ohio guy.
Mullins, Ohio.
Yep.
Mullins I got a funny Mullins story that I'm sure he hasn't even heard.
Please share. I don't know if he listens to us, but maybe
let's take a 5-minute break.
You want a 5-minute break?
5-minute break.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure.
Go ahead. Let's do it.
Oh, I got to stand up here for a minute.
Yeah.
Getting old.
We'll be right back. We're back at it, and this message is brought to you by, that break was brought to you by Iron Bean Coffee. Marty, give us a little heads up on this, our newest possible sponsor here.
Yeah, it's a great husband and wife team. They're from upstate New York, the Albany area. They're out here in I guess you want to say the Perrysburg area, and small little place doing their own coffee, grinding their own coffee. They've got 3 or 4 different mixes and blends, I guess you want to call them, not mixes, but I walked in and saw butter pecan. So any Eastern people that know butter pecan ice cream, I immediately smelt butter pecan.
Really?
That's my wife's favorite ice cream. It's like, this I've got to get with. So we got talking, and they've been doing the coffee stuff, and we've been talking to them a little bit. So they're gonna keep us awake during all the podcasts.
Well, and they ride too, right?
He said they some street. They did 4-wheelers. They're big 4-wheeler fans. They sort of got into the new business of sort of taking their time up and stuff. But hopefully we'll get them out to come hang out with us a little bit too. And
veteran owned.
Yes.
And this one, I was in the break. I was kind of showing it to Corey. This one's called Rage. So Corey, if you need, to jack up your clients, they're not getting on the gas hard enough, just send them some cast iron brand flavor coffee by Iron Bean. We'll get your guys twisting the throttle a little harder.
This one is Fear No Evil. So
they did. I will say, not to digress on it too much, but they had a flavor called what did we talk about today? It was cinnamon. Biscuit or cinnamon. Cinnamon, like cinnamon roll or cinnamon swirl, something. Man, I'm like, do you eat it or drink it?
I know.
Like, what do you do with this stuff?
Yeah.
We'll get
the butter pecan sounds really good to me.
I'll tell you, my truck smelled really good. I had that like a wow, and I brought it home and I put it in the fridge because she was gone for a few days.
But she likes it. She enjoys it.
She said,
I'm going to try it. I definitely
I didn't even think about it. I should have made you coffee.
Yeah.
We could have had coffee here while we're talking.
I might
Corey.
just open it up and smell it. Maybe that'll hopefully keep the rage
walk
down.
in, and because they're grinding everything right there, it's real. I mean, it's just that great, sort of like us. We're just small, and it's just that little unique little shop,
niche place.
That you walk in, it's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
They do have
the smells when you go to a place that actually manufactures coffee.
Oh
yeah.
You smell that.
That's like crazy good. You're like, holy cow.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? I mean, but isn't it funny when you go to a place like that? Like it's just like you instantly feel good about yourself.
I know.
Isn't it weird? Yeah. And then you just want to throw the wallet on the table. It's like, take my money,
Well, it's funny because, I get back to the office and I walk in like, who's got coffee? Because it was still there. I mean, it was just, the smell was great. And so we got to talk, in dirt bikes and motorcycles and adventure bikes and stuff like that a little bit yesterday as we had chatted. So we're going to visit them and see what kind of things that we might be able to put together. And, maybe there's some other options that we might be able to do too with this coffee. So coffee, everybody likes coffee. So,
everybody likes coffee.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one thing that, we ride our trails and get to some place to have some coffee.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a neat little adventure?
Chocolate or whatever, it's
nice.
Well, everybody likes coffee, or should, and everybody should like dirt bike stories. So let's jump back to your Charlie Mullins story, Corey.
Yes, sorry about that. Sure. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I got two. I don't know why, but I guess I just try good stories. But this one, I had never met Charlie, and he was riding 250A, and I was working for Scott on the side. I was just doing his race bikes, I think, maybe. And I came down for the weekend just to ride, and Scott's got an epic trail. He has terrain that simulates hard enduro, I guess, before hard enduro. And so anyway, he's like, I want you to come down, and I want you to ride with these guys. I think this kid's something special. And I was like, cool, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know how to judge talent really, but yeah, sure. and we rode hard enduro all day. And me and Hot Rod and his dad. I don't know if you know his dad. His dad's really funny dude, really fun guy.
I don't.
And Scott, and we all rode together, but we didn't do laps. We were just kind of playing around all day. And then I think honestly, a little bit of it was probably a little envy that I wasn't that guy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But Scott asked me afterwards, and I'm old enough now and I'm mature enough now to go, some of the things that I said and did in those days were out of jealousy. And so anyways, we get done and Scott's like, what do you think? It's pretty dang good, huh? And I was like, I don't see it. And then he went on to win everything, you know? And I always thought that was funny. I never told Hot Rod that story. I don't know if Scott did or not, but I always thought it was pretty funny because, and I wasn't like, he's a bad guy or he's not fast. I was
right.
kind of like, no, I don't think he'll win a GNCC championship. I don't know if I see that. And then he did. He was
wrong.
He was far exceeded what even Scott thought. Like, he was unreal. He is unreal. He's a machine.
I was on his minute once at Mud Daubers when it was a national. I mean, it was maybe 5 corners. I could see him. I mean, and he was on a 3. It was like when him and Russell Bobbitt were kind of going back and, battling there at the end.
Yeah.
It was the last race of the year, and he was going for it. I mean, he's going to go for it anyway because it's what he gets paid to do. But, dude, I'm like, how does your brain process the amount of trees that fast? I do not understand. It's
I have a theory.
Please share.
My theory is that those guys, Valentino Rossi, Charlie Mullins, Ryan Villapoto, people like that, things are happening slower in their minds than they are in my mind. And you could probably compare it. Even Matt, I think maybe you're processing the trail quicker than Marty does. You know what I mean? There's all different levels to this. And but if you watch, I think Villapoto and like Rossi are good examples because if you were to slow down, because Villapoto steered with both wheels, he slid both wheels. And if you slowed that down into hundredths of a second, I don't think a normal mind can make those adjustments that you see him making. And that's why you can't teach someone to ride like Villapoto. You can teach someone with the same form as Ryan Dungey or Ryan Hughes, but you can't. I just don't think you can teach someone to do a Ryan Villapoto turn or even an Eli Tomac turn. Eli Tomac has to have the stiffest rear bid because he's so aggressive. So that's my theory, I guess, and why the greats are the greats, in my opinion.
So they
beyond
just
the work.
It's beyond talent. It's just the way you're built. I was listening to a podcast Jeremy McGrath was on, which, by the way, he's introduces our show. Isn't that cool?
Way cool.
When you're as popular as Matt, we have to turn people away all the time.
He emailed me and he was like, "Hey,
hey, what's up?
I'd be honored to introduce this thing." No, I mean, that all worked out great, but
That's awesome.
he was just saying how his body was just made to ride a bike. Like he was built, he was kind of shorter, stocky. He was just able to I mean, some guys just have that. Yeah. That you get here. And then there's that. What would you say, Corey? Like within a 1% of a guy that can go to this level. Yeah.
I agree. And that's why I always say, might as well have fun with it because the chances of you being Jeremy McGrath are like hitting a lotto, really. It's such a small amount of people that really make it. And even I grew up around Jeff, and I used to get to ride with him every so often. When I lived at my grandma's, we'd ride Wednesday nights every so often, and I would hear these people say, "Yeah, Stanton's not that talented, but he's a really hard worker. He's a bulldog. He's super strong," and all those things are very true. I don't know watching him wheelie down his road, Blossom Road, down Athens Road to his dad's house, down the mile-long driveway on a wheelie back to Supercross track, and go, "Well, if this guy isn't talented, I should probably just stop riding and go pick up a different hobby."
Right.
He's crazy talented. It's ridiculous how good he is. He's just not Jean-Michel Bale,
Right. Right.
And if you win a Supercross title or a national motocross, even a race, you're insanely talented. You're crazy good.
Yeah.
So,
it's I don't know. It's just crazy to watch some guy. And you know, it's funny now, or not funny, but just how it seems like kind of going off, thinking about off road. I watch on Facebook. I don't watch a whole lot on YouTube, but you know, Facebook, you'll see clips of, you know, like national enduro highlights.
yeah.
In my opinion, them guys are going so fast through the woods now. It's I don't want to say it's scary to watch, but it's almost scary to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, they are going so fast through the woods. There is no margin for error. I mean, they're not pacing themselves. They're not. I mean, it is just sprint.
Sprint.
And you
Well,
want to talk
changed,
about
right?
you want to talk about being able to just contemplate everything. You know, I mean, when it's one thing going down a straightaway at a motocross track, but there is no straightaway as much in a off road race, and there's trees clicking by you. There's all kinds of stuff, and to be able to have that reaction time,
Yes,
is unbelievable. And so I want to jump back a little bit because he was Corey was talking about how these fast guys were able to process these speeds. Back up a little bit as I'm getting older, and I wonder, have you thought about what you teach a guy like me as I'm getting older, I'm getting slower? What do we work on to sort of keep, I want to say the edge, but how do we keep our responses and are done, because that seems like of course I'm 19 years old in my head, and I'm
Right.
going just as fast as I was when I was 19, but for some reason my grandson passes me, and I'm not quite sure how that is, but no, it is. It's as I ride, I ride to enjoy.
right.
There is not much racing. Occasionally, there's always that little bit of battle back and forth, and I'm good for about 3 minutes, and then
We don't want to lose that.
yeah. But like I say,
Yeah.
a lot of it is the balance. And I say, how do you keep that balance up? How do you
Right.
keep that sharpness up? What do you
Yeah.
work on to do that? Have you worked on that, or have you
Yeah.
dealt with
absolutely.
old guys like me?
I have. Yeah. I coach all ages, and to be honest, when I very first started doing this, I had some experiences that made me think over 60 with less skill is hard to coach. But then I made some real breakthroughs on it, and really improved that quite a bit. And I've had some guys that were older that made huge improvements, and basically happily, I was happy that I was able to debunk that myth. And I think number one is to ride a lot. I was talking to Fred Bramble about this morning. Riding a lot is huge, right? If you can ride a lot, that's going to keep you sharp. But then when we do the riding schools, we're unwinding some bad habits, and riding styles have changed a lot over the years, right? You could even look back at Carmichael and McGrath and Randy Hawkins and Scott Summers and how that's changed. And off-road guys used to brake slide everywhere because the trails were tight, and they're not really as tight now. And it's just faster to not brake slide at this point. And in motocross, they were riding more flat-footed. And if you watch guys now, they're riding more on the balls of their feet in moto. And in off-road, we kind of go back and forth because sometimes you got to cover the brake. But so I think number one is riding a lot, and number two is finding the right techniques that allow you to be safer, and getting that head up, which I'm sure you've done that long enough that you're pretty dialed on that, as far as looking way ahead and things like that help a lot too with response time.
I do, but I can't see nothing.
Oh, well, that's not gonna help them, are you? Maybe you should get your eyes checked or something.
There you go. Yeah. I have a very good friend out in Arizona. He's 64-ish, 5. He rides, like every day almost. And, it's amazing, when you're talking about speed and stuff, because I look at that and thinking, man, I wish I could, because he's always been fast anyway, but it was like, man, it seems like I'm losing it 3 times faster than than he is, or 5 times or 10 times. But,
yeah,
I
also think being training off the bike is huge too. Even if you're not a racer, to get some exercise. And I work with an off the bike trainer, Tyler Gugamos, that he was a top off-road racer. I think he won 4 overalls. He competed for championships. I don't think he got one, but he was racing Aaron Wagner and Chris Galt, and they're awesome.
Who is it?
Tyler Gugamos.
Yeah, I remember. I remember Tyler.
Yeah, and for the last 11 years, he and his wife full-time train triathletes, and they do triathlons, and they're incredible athletes. And I'm sure most people know that cyclists and triathletes, they're beyond us with the training, with the exception of, the very top pros that have Elton Baker or Charlie Mullins to train them. So Tyler trains everybody. I got guys that are riding the C class that Tyler's training, and they're going to get faster because they're going to be more fit. And, oxygen in your brain is better because you're more fit. And so that's the other thing I'd say, Marty, is even if you just did a little cardio every so often, that would help too.
Yeah, that's what, my sons, they're into the mountain bike stuff, the bike riding stuff. And that's what, trying to do a little bit more of that. It just seems like, for me, it seems like the last year balance has been a problem.
Balance?
And it's just, I don't know, maybe it's in my head, but it just seems like I just don't have it to where I used to, it just seems like that's where, I've always, longevity wise and breathing wise, we've been lucky to ride all around the countryside, and that doesn't seem to get me. It just seems like my balance is not, what it used to be, when we're out riding, dabbing more often, or, just doing some stuff. I'm thinking, man, and maybe it's just me, bad habits. It seems like it seems like you have good habits, and then as you start slowing down, the bad habits start forming because now you're kind of compensating for what you're not doing. And, like you said, it's just, you need to get back at it, have somebody come back out and slap you backside the head and say, okay, stand up and do this and do that. And which is always great. I think that's great, and hopefully, we'll all be able to get together sometime. And like I said, I just enjoy riding, and that's where, I want to be able to ride good. Right. I want to have fun still and enjoy it. And
So Corey, how do you help a guy? I mean, I don't want to,
No,
I don't want to scam your coaching and get a free consultation from Marty here.
Pen out here.
But but I mean, in general, how does one improve their balance riding, you think?
So that's what I was going to say is, for balance, we would do a lot of drills, right? And then we would also make sure your body position's right. It really starts with the right body position. And motorcycle, dirt bike especially, is meant to be ridden more with your legs than your upper body. And so you want a strong lower body, and you want to really be engaging your knees into the bike and gripping the bike with your knees. And I'm not saying to Suzanne Summers a motorcycle the entire day. You can't do that. I have a Thigh Master, by the way. I got a purple Thigh Master in the next room, and you better believe I use it.
I just had this weird vision in my head as soon as you said that.
I made a video even once. So yeah. But no, I think having contact with your knees on the bike so that if something happens, then you can grip it. But riding with your lower body. But drills, I think, would help a lot. And then we use videos through the entire school, so that, because what happens is when you've ridden a certain way for so long, it feels right. And I tell you, hey, I want you to roll your toes in and your knees in and roll your hips out and get your butt back a little more and get your torso down. And it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel really strange. And you're going to go, it doesn't feel right. And then I show you the video of how you were riding versus a video of how you ride now. And you go, okay, all right, I got it. This looks way better. This is how every pro rides. And, like tucked in, I see a lot of guys. I see even really good riders that tend to be too tucked in with their butt and their torso too far forward. So every time they get on the gas, it's this constant push-pull that they're fighting versus, being in that attack position. And if you watch a really fast guy in the attack position, it's a very similar stance to like a top baseball, football, basketball player, only they have their legs further apart because they don't need to grip a dirt bike. But beyond that, having that butt back and knees slightly bent and that torso down. Sometimes you see a guy their knees are bent way too much, and then their torso is upright to kind of compensate. And that's not going to work. That's going to give you arm pump all day, every day.
Right.
You want that torso going with the motorcycle and the legs doing the work of holding you in the place you want to be in. So
I tell you, the three things I tell my boys all the time: look up, stand up, and squeeze the bike. With your knees. Exactly everything opposite of what I did as a kid. Right. Honestly, I didn't really. I sat down a ton as a racer, and I regret doing that. I should have stood up, but I didn't think I was going fast enough, because I didn't feel the acceleration. But I hardly ever now, of course, I'm just trail riding these days. I hardly ever sit. Actually, Kevin in our club, he goes, "Man, you were the king of standing up." And I'm like, this is not how I ever used to be.
See, I'm the other way. I used to stand. I sit more.
Now you're sitting more.
Sit more.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And that's just conditioning.
Right.
It really is. I was going to say, as you were talking about, the position in of the rider and stuff, and I'm sort of just standing, I'm sitting across from my grandson's little husky, and I'm thinking about that, and I'm just sort of picturing him on this bike and how he does. And I mean, as I was picturing him, I'm thinking, how important it's great to have that position, but how important is it for that bike setup? Because you could have the great positioning, but be uncomfortable to ride.
Right.
I was just thinking about that. As you were talking about that, I'm picturing him on that bike and thinking, man, is those handlebars, are they really where they need to be? I'm thinking, you could have that position, but not be comfortable at it.
Right.
So how much setup is in that bike to get you in a right riding position?
Did we lose him?
Yeah, we can hear you well. So where do you think we were when we were talking?
Well, just cut out.
Body position, I think. Or no, sensation training.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about the bike position, but the bike setup.
For body position, for new body position, basically. I think that was kind of your question, right?
Yeah, because like you said, I'm looking at the bike, and I was just sort of picturing, how he should be on that bike. Then I'm looking at it and thinking, like, man, how important is it to get the right, the right setting of the bars, the levers, because you can have good body position, but then be very uncomfortable with it and go right back to not having good body position,
What do you think?
I think there's exceptions to this rule always, but for the average person trying to ride like a Dungey or a Hughes with the typical great form, a neutral bar setup. And then as far as bars, my trick was to do some push-ups and some bench press and some weight stuff, and then measure how far apart my hands were, which for me is 31s, but I run 31. I know Lafferty even used to run some like 33s. They would Al would extend the bars for a minute for him because he's a really big guy with a big wingspan. And so anyway, I'm getting a little off track there, but for the average person, I think a real neutral setup is usually good if you're trying to adjust your form. And then, so we'll look at bike setup to make sure that it's balanced. And at riding schools, at least half the time, the bike has as many issues as the rider, at least. And guys will come with cone forks and track shock that are way out of balance. And my stock setup's better than theirs because they're so far out of balance.
Yeah.
And you could blame that on the tuner, but I wouldn't, I guess. I've been on both sides. I've been the rider, I've been the tuner. And I feel like guys need to learn how to communicate with their tuners better. If you got a good guy, he still has to go off your information. And my personal suspension guy is Rui at Armoto, and it took a minute. He's from the moto world, but now he's a great off-road suspension tuner. But that comes from the communication and us testing and going, and me going, hey, this is too soft for me right now, but it'd be a great intermediate setup, which is the setup I'm going to run this year because I'm like you, Matt. And you, Marty. I just want to have fun. I'm not.
Right.
He gave me my setup that I used to race on last year, and it wasn't right. It was too stiff. I don't go that fast anymore. And so I think being able to communicate with your tuner, and then the video tells us a lot. I mean, that's why I use an iPad, because I can slow it down inside of a tenth of a second. And I can, because sometimes I'll see something with a naked eye and I'll go, man, I think that shock was too fast right there. And then I'll take my iPad after he's left and I got a minute before the next guy's coming, and I'll go, yeah, that was too fast. Or I thought it was too fast, but he bottomed out in a casty. And so we need more low speed to keep it from bottoming out, and trying to work with the riders to teach them what high speed compression is, and rebound and ride height, and all these different things, because like we were talking earlier, Matt, about teaching your kid how to use the clutch, and it's so basic for us that you almost have to reverse engineer it. Well, for some of that I took for granted that everyone knew what high speed compression does, but I've since reverse engineered that, and I'm trying to teach my riders how to communicate with their suspension guys better. So
and
how the clickers work.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's really what I was thinking.
I've had the same conversation with our local suspension guy. Of course, it's a little tougher when you have the business that you're in business to make money with that, to be able to want to come out and do, a class. But, I think of, a brand new bike, and I sort of sometimes wonder how much that deters somebody from continue on riding. Sometimes they buy a bike and they have no inkling of what the sag is, or what tire pressure should be, or anything like that. And they get out there and ride that. And of course, a lot of times people get hurt because it's not set up for them, and that kind of stuff. And I've been telling, our suspension guy, it really, I think it would come back around, for him, if he was to go out there and put on some clinics. Yeah. Because, it's, like you said, you look at it and think, oh, it's too fast, but realistically it was something a little bit different than what you saw. And, that's the same thing as, for me to communicate to you what my suspension is exactly doing, I don't know that I could necessarily do that.
That's hard.
That's
real hard.
To me, it's like, oh, it needs to be softer.
Right.
And then you turn around and I start riding a bike that's got a little bit harder suspension. I'm like, wow, this ride's pretty good.
Right.
And so, for a lot of people, just the education of what that suspension is supposed to do for you, is a huge deal. That I say, probably what I see out there, even coming to the track, of all the people that's been there to the track, that's ridden for even years and years, I'll bet you 90% of them still really don't know what that suspension should really be doing for them. Right. They get it set up where they think they like it, but really, is it doing the best for them? It's like anything, all of a sudden, you start changing up, all of a sudden you start going faster, and so that's one of those things where, like, wow, it really be really good. That's how you said. I think that's such a big piece to the coaching side of life.
I think it's the biggest. I mean, I don't know what you think, Corey. And I personally,
it's at least half of it.
Half of it, it's got to be, because if your bike's, even if you're just trail riding, you want to be comfortable. If you're not, you're not going to want to go out and do it.
Yeah, I think it's half of it, and I think just if we're going to go into the big picture, the macro picture is. In golf, for example, I golf terribly. My son and I like to go hit little white balls because every 15th time I hit it right. And every golf course has a golf pro, right?
Right.
At least one. And basketball coaches like crazy, and football coaches. But here we are in one of the most dangerous sports in the world, in my opinion. And I love it. I love it with all my heart. And we don't have very many coaches or people that would advise. And in place of that, we tend to have egomaniac troll people on the internet, online, that want to beat you up because they claim they know everything. And
they don't.
And I've been in the industry my entire life, and I don't know everything. A fraction of what I hope to know in 20 years, And
right.
So we have all these big egos, right, and misinformation, and then a lack of really good information and good coaching, I feel like, on the tuning side and the riding side. And so I hope it's not just me, and that other people do it too, because I love the business, but I love the sport way more, so I'm not afraid of somebody coaching too. I would love it. I think we need it. So
Yeah, I think there's a big demand. I like I said, I would love to try it, but I just don't have the time. I just don't have the. I can't do it, because I wouldn't want to do it, no, I mean, excuse the language. I wouldn't want to half-ass it. You know what I mean? And that's just not how I roll.
I think the other thing too is when I first got into this, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, where because the things that I learned were from national world champions, just through stupid dumb luck of where I grew up, and so I just always thought like, why could I coach? I'm not a national or a world champion. I'm just a regional guy. Like, what gives me the right? But in the end, I found out now, because some fast guys that want to coach tend to just demonstrate, and they do a good job at demonstrating and explaining a bit. But what we really need is teachers. We need teachers that can explain and articulate exactly what's happening at all times. And Jeff, Jeff's the one who talked me into this. I was out on a lake on a Sunday afternoon fixing somebody's, and it's 95 degrees out in the middle of the lake, and I'm miserable working on this inboard motor. He calls me up. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm working on a boat." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Cause I," and he's like, "I thought you were going to coach." And I said, "Yeah, I don't think people they don't want me to coach them. Like, I just don't think there's much demand." And he said, "You think about it too much. Just go do it." He's like, "Quit thinking about it and just go do it." And then I did it. And I realized that I really feel like calling is to be a teacher. And I think you don't have to be a top pro or even a fast regional pro to be a coach. I think you just have to learn. You just have to know how to articulate and teach, really.
Yeah, because you're teaching and articulating.
Coaches never went to the NBA.
Right. Well, you're articulating and teaching to, possibly a 70-year gap in human beings, right? I mean, and you got to be able to figure that out. How can I teach a 5-year-old? How can I teach a 65-year-old? And that's got to be challenging. How did you getting in the tuning side? Because I think a big part of who you are and your history is you were a mechanic for Scott Summers. How did you even get involved with that? I don't remember the story.
All right, this is a good one. And I don't know if I ever told Jeff this story either. Maybe I did. I know that Fred Brandlett did. So I was racing GNCCs. I think I was 18, and I just turned 19, and they needed somebody because Fred was busy managing athletes. He was a sports agent, or they had started this sports agency called OMS, and they had Mike Rocco in the Bostrums and a bunch of really good guys. And it didn't make sense for somebody as intelligent as Fred to be a mechanic anymore, in my opinion. And so Jeff Stanton got me the interview, and I went down there and I interviewed with Scott, and I was away on business. And on the way home, he called me. Fred did, and we talked on the phone. Or no, it wasn't on the way home because we didn't have cell phones. But I got home, and he called me at home, and we talked. And he said, "You know what? Scott likes you. I like you." He's like, "Let's do this." And and at the time, I had been doing suspension and engines to pay for my racing with doing construction, and just tire changes. Even I'd change everybody's tires that I rode with, and I guess I just sort of had an aptitude for that stuff. I wouldn't pretend to be an exceptional mechanic. I'm okay,
Right.
But I got to be around in the winters at Honda. I got to be around, Gosler and Cliff and all these guys that are like, I couldn't even pretend to be in the same league as them. That would be crazy. So anyway, long story short, I moved down there like a week later. And
this is in Kentucky.
2 weeks in Kentucky,
right,
at the race shop. And they had checklists, and we built the Indy bikes. It used to take 12 to 14 bikes to Indy for the show, all mocked up with all the stuff on them. And then I built them a race bike. And it wasn't hard because they ran a stock engine. Scott loves a stock XR engine. And they had about a 40-point checklist. It basically just made it idiot-proof for what you do. And I built him the bike, and he went out and test rode it, and he was super happy. And he, probably because they got me for a deal, And, and so we get done, and Fred and Scott and these guys, they used to work sometimes 24 hours straight. And I would work with them too. Cause I'm like, if they're not going home at 5 or 6 or 10 or 3 a.m., I'm not either. And so sometimes we'd work 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then we'd go to breakfast, and, Scott would eat 3 entrees or something. And, so anyway, we get done with that, and it's probably 9 or 10 at night. And, they were like, man, let's go celebrate. This worked out good. Let's go out. We'll have a couple beers. And I was like, well, I would, but I'm only 19. And they're like, you're 19? And I said, no, I'm 19, I'm like, didn't you look at my stuff? And they're like, we don't look at the paperwork. The people not, whoever did my paperwork.
Yeah, that's HR.
Yeah. And he's like, Jeff Stanton told us that you were 25. And I'm like, I'm 19. And so I think Fred even asked Jeff about it later. And Fred and Scott both said, they're like, we're so glad, because we would have never hired you at 19. We would, 25, we were even thinking, he's so young. And it changed the trajectory of my life forever.
So you were DD for a couple years for those guys.
Yeah. Well, they're not big drinkers or anything, so it's not like that. But they were more like 1 or 2 beers. And, we used to always, I was so young, and Scott's 10 years older than me. And so they would want to go to like the dimly lit, quiet bars or restaurants. And I'd be like, let's go to the loud ones, where the girls are.
Right.
Now I'm 43 and I'm like, let's quiet place. There's no chance I'm going to like the loud place. But so it all changes. But no, I thought that was a funny story. And I guess I should ask Jeff about it, because I don't know if I ever even talked to him about it. I'm sure he just didn't know how old I was,
Well, you have to, you'll have to, when we get the podcast out, you have to get it over to Jeff and see what he, see if he can critique you a little bit, but I just a funny Scott Summer story. So in 1996, I got to go to the ISDE in Finland as a spectator, and, like Summers was on the team, and Hatch and Hawkins and Smith. And I think Ty Davis, like top of our guys, and, they had just gotten the Team USA, I think, got third, and they just got done. And I missed Scott lifting the XR up. He used to do all that all the time.
Yeah.
He would. I don't know if you knew that, Marty.
No.
Scott Summers would get done racing, or victory lap or whatever he would do, and he would literally, I think more for entertainment value, he would pick up an XR 600, like deadlift it basically in front of him, pick it up.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I missed the whole thing, and I'm so mad at that, but can't go back. But the I think the Finns won. Of course, it was in their backyard that year, and I remember my dad saying, because he caught it, he saw it. The Finns picked up like 10 guys, picked up a Husqvarna. You would have liked them, Marty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Right.
Picked up the Husky above their heads, and and then all of a sudden they look over and hear Scott picking up this XR 600 by himself. Like
300-pound bike.
300-pound bike.
Yeah.
With no gas or oil in it, I'm sure. And that was he was an animal to watch on that bike.
Yeah.
I want to regress real quick before I forget it, because I'm getting old. He made a comment, Corey made a comment about that by the luck of the draw, he's been with these people, stuff. And I want to say, I don't believe that. I believe that he was there because he's a type of person that puts him in a place like that. Because, there's a lot of people that's had a lot of great opportunities that walk away with absolutely nothing benefit.
Squandered it.
And I think, it takes a special person to realize, when they do have the ability to be around a Jeff Stanton or a Scott, that they're soaking up everything that it's being, shown to them. They may not know it at the time, but it's a different type of person that really, because I've I've had, you know, business and a lot of employees and, you know, a lot of people I've worked with and stuff, and been able to sort of watch people. I like to watch people and see, you know, really who really moves through different things. And like I said, it's not everybody can, I don't know if it's pride or what it is, can actually absorb that.
Yeah.
You know, it takes definitely a person and just a different mindset to be able to do that.
Well, if Corey wouldn't have, you know, so he grew up down the road from Jeff Stanton. He rides with Jeff Stanton. Jeff Stanton sees you work. You're building houses, or, you know, so yeah. I mean, I would agree with you. It's not a luck thing, Corey. I think you're kind of selling yourself short. I would say you're a hard worker. You're dedicated. You love the sport, and you had a guy like Jeff Stanton. It's like, I mean, he's not going to BS anybody besides the part of your age. You know,
that was marketing.
Yeah,
that was marketing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta grease the wheel a little bit.
He will be 25 sometime.
Yeah, I mean, he looked 25.
He looked 25.
Yeah, he looked 25. Yeah. But you know, I mean, I think you worked hard and it paid off. And I mean, what an awesome opportunity for you.
And the funny thing is when I was a kid, I was around Jeff a lot, just because he was a family friend, but a decent amount. And I was always so intimidated. And I was actually a very shy kid. And I never really had the courage to say anything, but I was always just around. And not until maybe 10 years ago, I felt really comfortable talking to Jeff. I was just always so intimidated. He's just such a larger than life, and he'd done so many things that I thought were impossible for someone from where I came from. From someone to come from Sherwood, which is like population 200, and be the best in the world. It just seemed like crazy to me. But then the other thing I saw was when you get invited to do anything, you show up. If you're around those kind of people, you show up early and you stay late, and you know, for instance, like you have an event, you take down every arrow, and you show up every time, you know. And so I guess for me, I learned that from an early age, and I always felt like an underdog, and I always felt like I was just lucky to be there, and that I shouldn't be there, but somehow I was. And so, you know, at Honda, I would work in the off-road race shop, and I would get done working in the off-road race shop, and then I wanted to talk to the motocross and the road race guys, but I was just a little too intimidated. And so I would go and I would clean everything. I'd go down to the motocross shop and I would clean up the power washer, and I'd wipe the hose down and I'd coil it up. And pretty soon they're inviting me in, you know, because they're like, no one does that. No one cleans up after themselves in the wash bay and does all this stuff. And so then I got invited in, just, I don't know, I guess just maybe that feeling that I was always an underdog and that I shouldn't have been there.
The details matter, you know.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you know, it really does. And like I said, you know, it's that kind of mentality, though,
right?
That, you know, and along with being, you know, he may have had a different experience with maybe some different riders and never been there, but that's the other piece too. He sort of associated himself with riders that had that same mentality,
right?
That, you know, you see Jeff show up at the track at Red Bud in his old Ford pickup truck, you know, and stuff.
Right.
And, you know, if you didn't know who he was, it's like, you know, well, he's got, you know, 1985 or whatever it is, 89 Ford pickup truck,
right.
And they all come, and you got 4 or 5 guys in the back of it, and they're bringing something into the track or something, you know. But that's the other thing is getting into that position with that type of person also, right, that seem to be able to teach you without really teaching you, you know. And that's, you know, that was one of the other things I was going to mention is, you know, I think a lot of guys, like exactly like what Corey said, is that they can demonstrate. A very fast rider can demonstrate how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, you know, someone that's maybe, you know, not as fast, but are very, you know, is faster than a lot of people, they have a little bit easier not demonstrating it. They can actually tell people how and teach people how to do things, you know.
Right.
I think if I could add, oh, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead. Nope. Please go ahead.
If I could add to that, my opinion is there's 2 types of riders. There's the rider who is more of a feeler rider. And I'm ripping a bit of this off from Ed Hughes, but because I follow him and I think that he's really super intelligent and advanced on some of the stuff. There's a rider that feels, and he doesn't think a lot. He's more of a feel rider. And then you have a rider that's a thinking rider that's always thinking and always analyzing, very analytical. And of course, both can do a bit of each. But I think the money is in teaching a feeling rider how to think and teaching a thinking rider how to feel and shut his brain off at a certain point. And my daughter's a good, she ski races and her form is pretty perfect. But sometimes she's so caught up in being perfect that she doesn't go fast, right? But then you get other guys that are not thinking about anything. They're just pinning it, right? And I don't want to call those guys out, but I got a couple guys on the top of my head, and you just want to go, hey, let's think a little and analyze a little bit more, right? So that's kind of my thing on thinking and feeling, and a thinking rider, when you teach him a new thing, he's got to do it a lot more than a feeling rider to get it automated. And that's the goal with any new technique, is it's got to get automated, because you can't go, I got to get my outside elbow up and I got to be looking ahead and looking at the apex and then you exit when you get to the race. Time you get to the race, it's time to just race and go.
Right.
And that was always my struggle, was I had to practice so much so that I could turn my brain off once I got to the race and just try and go fast. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, like I say, I used to, we lived in Arizona, so we rode quite a bit out there, and I could tell in the first 10 minutes if it was going to be a good ride or a bad ride, because I couldn't shut my brain off. And it was just thinking. And it's like, this is not going to be a good ride.
Right.
And it really, realistically, a lot of times I just kept on riding, but most of the time I should have just packed it up in the truck and went home, you know, because like I said, if you can't turn that brain off, it just, for some reason, you just, for like you said, it just makes things harder.
Well, if you got to stop and, if you have to stop and process, what do I do over this log? You've already just lost, at least in an enduro, or really any race.
Yeah.
You just now lost valuable time, and, or even if, honestly, even if you're just trail riding, you can keep your flow and your momentum going if you just stop thinking and it becomes natural. But you got to ride, you got to practice to do that. So my problem is thinking what I did. So I'm behind, I'm thinking behind me. I came out, man, I should have, that corner should have been a little bit different. Or, that log kicked me a little bit. Yeah, probably. So I'm already into the next 30 feet, still thinking about the last 30 feet, and it just never catches up to where, okay, this is going to be a pleasant ride. You keep thinking, that wasn't great. That wasn't great. Or, and like I said, next thing, and when you're not thinking ahead, like you said, it just keeps piling on, So, but then when the days that it does click, man, it's like, this is it. Don't go home, just keep riding until the gas runs out, Yeah. Do you have, go ahead.
My friend, Tyler Gugamos, who we were talking about earlier, the guy who owns Organic Coaching and Master Fitness, he's an overthinker also, like we are. And we got it a little while ago. And for me, when I was healthy and I could ride, I was riding like 4 nights a week or so, and I would just leave my bike in the garage and just ready to go. And I always felt like, especially at the speed in my track is pretty tight, it was the best thing for my mental health, because there's no room to overthink when you're going really fast through tight trees. So it's a way of, like you said, Marty, some days I would have that trouble getting in the groove, but then once I got in the groove, then it was a way for me to shut off all these thoughts and just focus on riding. And then you get done, you feel so much better, right? Like the stress and everything from the day is gone, and it's just so good. I can't wait to get back to it, for sure. It's
that flow, once you're in the flow and you're in the groove, and if you've never been in the flow or the groove, I feel sorry for you, because whether sea riders can feel it, Scott Summers can feel it, and
you can see it.
You can see it, and when you do have that feeling where everything's just clicking, it's like heaven, man. It really is.
I used to do that, we'd ride ride early morning. We used to start riding out there about 5:00, and we'd ride till noon. And I'd come home, and take a shower, lay down on the living room floor, and just pass out for an hour, and get back up and go, man, I feel so good, And it made when it clicked, my whole next week was just great.
Right.
I mean, it was I don't know. It just it was just such a great ride, such a great day, even though it tired you out.
Right.
That, man, the next week was like, Monday come out. There wasn't much on Monday that bothered me because it was a great week.
So I think that's a great way to start everybody's work week. Go out and ride.
That's what I'm thinking.
Can we get like a national movement on that?
Yeah,
let's call the president. Maybe they can try swinging in. But
the stuff that we're talking about, for me, it makes me want to ride. But more than that, it makes me want to get more people into riding. That's what it really. When we talk about how much I love to ride, and how much you guys love to ride, and how much it's added to all of our lives, it makes me go, we got to get more people doing this. We got to get more people on board with riding dirt bikes. So.
Well, doing doing what you're doing is certainly gonna help people.
COVID, we have all these brand new people. We've got a ton of brand new people. I know because I call on dealers through Parts Unlimited, and so the question is, how do we keep these people engaged and teach them the right way so that they don't get hurt? They're going to get hurt a little, but they get hurt less, and they stay with it and enjoy it. And so COVID has one good thing, is that we got more people riding now. We just got to keep them in. And I think the main thing is, and hopefully I reach a couple of trolls out there, when somebody that's brand new posts something on Michigan Trail Riders, don't blow them up and make them feel dumb. Make them feel included and make them feel good. You don't have to tear someone else's building down to be the tallest building in town. That's crazy. Let's build people up. That's my message to the people that, I don't know why certain people want to try and tear other people down. I don't understand the background of that, but we need to be inclusive, in my opinion.
Well, it's because they're miserable human beings to begin with, and they got nothing. They got nothing. Well, they got nothing better else to do. But like you said, tear other people down, and it's like we're all in this sport. Some of the greatest memories I've ever had is really not necessarily racing. It's before and after the race. Talking with a guy like you or Tyler or whoever. You just sharing that moment, like, hey, remember section 3, or did you burn that check? That's some of the greatest things ever. And if you can include other people, everybody wins. I don't understand the whole tearing people down on the internet stuff. It's just so immature, and you really ought to all have your butt kicked for that. But anyway, that's all on the podcast.
I don't see like our racer guys doing that.
No.
Usually I don't recognize the name at all when I see somebody being a bully. And because all my best friends all my great friends are from racing, as I'm sure it's like you guys. It's my whole life. So
it's just awesome. It's there's just certain people you're never going to change, and it's sad. But what do? You just, like you said, take the high road and try to stay positive.
Well, and I think too, like you said, there's so many new riders, and there's so many new riders out there, and the internet is so easy to get out there and ask a question, and be able to get in and do that. And, there's a lot of guys out there that's ridden forever and ever and ever. And it's like, oh, that's a stupid question, Yeah, because somebody answered that question for you 30 years ago,
right. Not on the internet.
And you don't remember that, And that's the unfortunate part, is that, people are always asking, and it's been so, like I say, it's always been a, great ride for me. I said, I didn't race as much as you guys, but, ours has always been off road, and I've been very fortunate to ride, many, many places around the United States. And it's, for me, it's the amount of people, the type of people you meet, I've been, we've been out in the desert and come across Taylor, Robert out there, or
oh wow,
a lot of those guys, because they ride in the same area where we ride,
Right.
And speaking of that, I don't know if you see Taylor just bought Extreme Adventures, a side-by-side rental company there in Carefree.
Oh, okay.
So he just bought that, which is really cool. So now it's Extreme Adventures. or Extreme Riding and Adventures or something like that.
I'll have to look it up.
So yeah, so I'm just wondering, is he going to put on some great tours?
Oh,
because that area where he is such a great riding. I mean, we've ridden there for 35 years, and there's so many places to ride out there. But it's just really cool because I mean, you just never know who who you're
going to run into,
see out there riding, and and everybody's when that happens, one day we were riding, and I can't remember, I can't think of his name. He's was he the Danish basketball player?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
You know who it is, right?
Not Rick Smits.
Rick Smits, yeah.
Oh, was it Rick?
So we're out there, and we're riding. And here's this big group of people, and of course, the guy we're riding with, he knows everybody. He's been there forever, and riding with all these guys. And so he introduced us, and here's this guy out there, like, wow, basketball player. That's
you didn't ask him like, hey, I bet did you play basketball in high school? Did you say that?
No. It's like what I wanted to ask is, can't you get a bigger bike?
Yeah.
Because it was so funny. I mean, he was I think he was riding a Kawasaki at the time.
Yeah.
I saw that. It's like, but man, I mean, you want to talk about moving that bike around for being as big as he was.
Yeah.
I mean, and Marty had ridden with him. He said he was up. They were riding up in Utah, up at Moab.
Yeah.
And they were doing some trails. And Marty gets halfway up and just can't make up this rock. So he just sort of lays it over, and then starts looking and contemplating. And Rick goes up it and gets up about halfway and can't go any further, and he just sort of picks the bike up, turns it around, and sets it back down, and goes back down. And Marty's down there. He's trying to think, okay, how am I getting my bike down?
Right.
But it's just so many cool people out there that you visit.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you one real quick story. Talking about riding. So my friend of mine out there, which is his name is Marty also. And he's trying to get my hand position right, and my grip. You can handle my grip. So I'm trying to do this where he's trying to tell me where I need to grip it and how I need to grip it. It is so uncomfortable. It's just like you're this is a joke, right? Because this doesn't feel right. So we're out there. Well, we come across a guy and a girl that were riders for a magazine. I can't remember what magazine it was now, but they were from California. They were in Arizona getting a new Sprinter van decaled all up and everything for their bikes. So they go, hey, do you know how to get back to the parking lot? And like, oh yeah, it's like, do you mind if we ride with you? It's like, go ahead, guys, you just follow Marty. If you don't find me, I'll be coming along, And so they go, and Marty's taking them up through there. And I told Marty, just ride. Don't worry about me. I don't want to be a fool, So I'm trying to do one of those, and I had a KTM 200, and I'm trying to ride this thing, and I look up, and here they are. They're sitting up on the hill looking at me, waiting for me to catch up. It's like, oh my word, and so I've got it all set up, and man, I whipped that thing, and I did a 360 and hit the ground. And I'm like, oh my gosh, right in front of these people. These guys, these guys ride for a magazine.
Right.
So I get up and I check it, and they're all going 10. It's like they gave me a perfect 10. Yeah. So it's like, oh my God.
You earned it. You earned it that day.
Yes, it did. But it is. But that's the part of it. I mean, it's just amazing who you see out there and find out there, and you find so many people. It's cool to talk to. I started riding with a gentleman. His name was Murphy. And when I started riding, this is probably early 80s, 82, 83. At that time, he was about 55 years old, and he had done a lot of the single track. And he was really a great steward, if you want to call it, of that area. Mm-hmm. And he would watch the trail, and the trail started getting a little sketchy and stuff. He would clean the entrance up, or he would do a bunch of stuff that you would ride right past it, go to another section or whatever, and he would do that. He'd just keep the trails, doing that stuff. And we started riding with him, and he was on an ATK, was it a 406 or something like that, or 409?
Before my time.
Before your time.
Yeah.
And, but, it's so funny because, here he rode with the, guys that were all from about 65 to 50,
right.
And we're young, I'm, at that point in time, I'm 20 years old or whatever. But here it is. It was just really cool because, we were actually met the guy that did so many of these trails.
Right.
But was also staying on it. And so sort of learned that a little bit over the years. Same thing. We'd ride a trail or whatever, and just all of a sudden just starting to get washed out a little bit. And my buddy of mine and I say, hey, let's try to do something a little different. Let's try to maybe, Murphy was always one of the guys that he used a lot of rocks. Mm-hmm. So his trail entrance would be a rock, to where if it got washed out, if he threw a little sand up on that rock and sort of rubbed it in so the tire marks was gone, you'd never know where the entrance was.
Right.
And so he could move it on and do some different things. And so, like I said, you learn so much from these people that you just meet out there. And that for me, that's half the battles. We always laugh, and the invention of the electric start has been so great because, probably on our trips, we stopped 30 times, whether we take a picture or, get us something to drink or talk, see somebody, it's nothing to see 4 or 5 riders come up. And then when we get our helmets off, we realize, we know who that person is, or
you're not wearing yourself out, all the time.
But it's just, like I said, it's just, for me, it's just such a great, there's nothing better than for me to ride out in the woods. I'm not as fast, and that's why I'm going to try to get my grandson to ride with me. Maybe I can keep up with him.
Well, it doesn't matter. If you need some coaching, you can.
That's I said we really do. We need to get him down to visit us. We cook some steaks, and
I do that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, come down and visit us, and
where do you go ahead, Corey?
So I do travel for schools, and I love to do it. It's been mainly in Michigan, but I'd be happy to go to Ohio or Indiana. But yeah, Kalkaska, I coach Brad and Greg Ayatt. I don't know if you remember Greg Ayatt. He's a really good rider. Yeah. So Greg has a ton of farms. I even see his cabin when I'm coaching there. And
coincidentally, his he had a family member that lived in our facility.
Oh.
What are the odds?
So she must have lived down there.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh wow.
Yeah. What are the odds of that?
Super nice guy.
Yeah,
you can't find a better guy. And so Brad owns property in Kalkaska and Greg, and I coach on both of their properties at the same time. And Brad is the manager at Mobile Power Sports, really good guy.
What's his last name?
Over to Berge.
Brad Berge. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know that name. Yep.
Great guy. And he's taken the schools too, and he's my example of a guy, because going into it, Brad was like, I'm a sit-down rider. I sit straight up and down. You're probably not going to make any progress with me. He was the best one. He made the most progress through the day. It was incredible.
Here's the thing. When you're at the bottom, anything you learn is going to take you up.
You've only got nowhere to go but up.
That's me.
He's a good rider. He's actually a pretty good rider. He just had bad habits, and he knew his habits, right? He was self-aware. But so then I've been up to Zajax. To coach at where he has a shirk chip, and they're going to have a qualifier. And we did a big one in Muskegon. We've done some at Battle Creek Motorcycle Club, and then my main spots are in Athens at my brother's, and then my friend Ron has a really nice trail, and then I do them here at my house too.
Where do you live, Corey?
Place. We have a new place just south of Kalamazoo.
Okay.
But we have a place that's close to here also that has a really good motocross track that I believe. It's Jeff's organizing it, but I believe we're going to coach there. And that's what I really need, is a really good moto track. My brother's moto track is decent, but it's not, it's not on that level.
Right.
So we have this really good moto track that we're working on that Jeff's going to include me on. So I'm really excited about that.
What do you do before we wrap up here? What do you do for a daily living?
Oh, so I've been a sales rep for Parts Unlimited since the spring of 2005. And,
okay.
So I'm still in the industry. I've worked in the industry my whole life, and my whole adult life rather. And so yeah, it's a great job, great company. They treat us really well, and I go see dealers, 5 days a week, and so I consult with dealers on what kind of inventory that they're going to stock and how much of that inventory, that kind of thing, returns, things like that. I work with them a lot on that kind of thing. And, my goal is always to not be a sales rep, but to be a consultant and a business partner with these guys. And sometimes that means you lay up, right? Like I'm definitely not the guy that's trying to shove stuff down your throat, you know, because I personally, I wouldn't be able to tolerate myself.
Yeah.
I just couldn't live with myself because I'm not that guy. So I try and look at it more as like, hey, what help? You know, what can you use me for as an extra employee for a couple hours while I'm here? And sometimes that's organizing tires, you know, cleaning shelves, getting oil out and put stickers on it. And sometimes it's take things with high level guys. And so I love it. I love my job, and hopefully I retire here from parts someday, you know.
Nice.
So,
well,
you get down into Ohio, or are you just up in Michigan, or where you at?
Yeah. So my territory was really small geographically. But we had some changes, and about a year ago now I'm Ohio, Northwest Ohio, and then Indiana from maybe like Columbia City up, sort of Fort Wayne area, and I go over to Winamac. So I travel a lot now and have about twice as many dealers. But the cool thing is I've met tons of new people that are awesome. I mean, Jim and Wes over at Championship have been incredibly nice to me, and I really enjoy going in there, you know. They're like other dealers that I already have, you know, have been awesome. So
yeah, they're like family. They, like I said, they've all helped. You know, I've bought a lot of bikes from them, and then, you know, as my grandkids have come up through, you know, we're starting to get bikes in them. They, you know, have always been great with, you know, helping them get into the right bikes and helping them, you know. I was telling somebody today, you know, we still have the picture of my grandson getting his first, you know, little Honda 50, and, you know, Jim gave him his first brand new helmet, you know. Nice. So he has it. Actually, it's the helmet's still up here on top of the shelf, you know. Cool. So we've got that original helmet. But, you know, as just wanted to sort of, you know, make mention that, you know, as MX Express, we've always, you know, really pushed towards more the youth in you know, in getting the youth come out and teaching and learning and trying to put some stuff on from them. And that's what, you know, we've always tried to do down here in our area. And there's been a big response to, you know, to a lot of, so as hopefully this podcast comes out, and if there's some, definitely some parents out there that would like to, you know, get some of that. Yeah. I know, well, we have some GNCC guys, young guys and gals out there. Yep. That's in our town that's really trying to race the series and doing that kind of stuff. And, you know, if somebody's interested, maybe, you know, we could put together something and have Corey come down. Because I know I would love to have him, you know, come down and like I said, just do the basics with, you know, my grandson and myself. I mean, like I said, I can always get better, you know, like when you're at the bottom, anything you do is you get
can
better.
Always go up, right?
You always go up, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but
and I got if we need somebody to fill it out too, like let's say we get 5 and we need 3 more. Usually we shoot for about 8 for a class. Is like more than 8, and then the quality isn't as good sometimes. So even if we like 8 from 9 a.m. to 1 or 2, and then we run 8 from 2 to so that no one's excluded. But I got guys in Detroit that can fill out classes. I got a bunch of guys kind of over.
Cool.
Nice.
Well, we have a nice little park.
Probably closer for them.
Yeah, because we're, I say 50 minutes from airport to airport, from Toledo Airport to Detroit Airport, but we've got a nice, not Metro Park. We got a nice riding facility about a mile from my house here, in Maumee State Forest.
Yeah.
And so it's got a little bit of single track. It's got some, 4-wheeler size. So it's sand. Some harder dirt, some single track. So what a great, great opportunity for some kids to learn something.
Maybe work something out for sure.
Yeah. So, if anybody's out there.
If anybody wants to host, it doesn't even take a ton of property, because what we end up doing is if it's a coaching deal, because I do riding schools and I do training sessions. Riding school, usually I'll set up 3 or 4 20 to 30 second loops so that I don't have to wait so long for the riders to come down.
Right.
So it doesn't even take a lot of property. So
cool. Well,
if I said, if anybody's out there and they want to contact
how do they find you? Well, how do they find you?
I don't have a website. I'm not fancy like that, but I'm on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
Okay.
You can message me, and my phone number is on all those if you want. And I take calls. I take a call or two every day from a rider with a bike question, a technique question, what kind of tire I should run. Never been to this track. What's it like? And honestly, I hope that they're listening because I love it. And I don't want them to ever feel like they can't call me. All the rest should call me anytime, you know?
Right.
I just love it. I live for this stuff. So
that's remarkable. I mean, it really is to be able to be that accessible.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and they can always get a hold of us.
1-800-CALL Corey.
Yep.
Maybe you should
or call her. So if they
get your own phone number there.
Yep. Yeah, if we can,
right.
if we can help anybody else too, they can always get a hold of us, and we can get a hold of Corey. We can put them together, and
we can patch them through.
It would definitely be when the weather gets nice and it's not freezing us to death. It'd be great to have you come down. Right. If nothing else, come down, hang out, and talk.
I would love that.
Talk shop, and get them here live.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well,
I'm riding by then, so we could ride.
Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on with us, and keep doing what you're doing, man. And like I said, I think you're doing a great job up there in the state of Michigan, and maybe you'll expand a little bit after this podcast, or that'd be great for you. So, But as we wrap up, we want to thank our guest, Great Lakes motorcycle coach Corey Parlin, for joining us. We also want to thank our audience for supporting the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe and give us 5 stars on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate that. Until next time, get out and ride, and remember to leave the sport better than you found it. On behalf of my co-host, Marty Wheeler, I'm Matt Bucher. Stay safe, everyone.